Hello and welcome to another episode of The Hub on Vital MX, your one-stop shop for motocross news from around the world. And we have a truly international feel this week off the back of the Monster Energy FIM Motocross of Nations, but that is not the biggest news story. No, that is indeed the fact that Jorge Prado and Monster Energy Kawasaki have officially parted ways. They came to a settlement that would let him get out of his contract effective October the 16th, 2025, although the split was actually announced on October the 9th, 2025. Now, heavy rumours indicate that Jorge Prado is already riding a Red Bull KTM factory racing steed in California, so once the Kawasaki deal is up on October the 16th, expect a PR from the Austrians on Prado's return home, if you want to call it that. Interestingly, in the same statement, Monster Energy Kawasaki confirmed that it will announce its 450 and 250 lineup in early November. Originally, we heard that the Chase Sexton announcement would come late next week. Instead, however, it seems that we are going to have to wait a couple more weeks. Chase is of course going to be at Kawasaki, we all know that, but the second seat remains a mystery. It truly does, and that's not us withholding information or sitting on a couple of hot rumours. There are no murmurs at all about who will sit next to Chase Sexton, so watch this space. Rewinding to the Monster Energy FIM Motocross of Nations, MX2 world champion Simon Lagenfelder obviously saw his weekend and season cut short with a crash in the first moto. He took to Instagram afterwards to state that he is feeling somewhat okay, only has a couple of broken ribs as well as a broken scapula. So Simon will need to take some time off, but there isn't much upheaval in his off-season. He is rumoured to be moving from the Ducati KTM outfit across to the Red Bull KTM factory racing outfit that Jeffrey Hurlings rode for this year, the one right out of Austria, in which case his teammate would be Andrea Radamo, but not too much to get accustomed to there. Of course, same bike, same parts, same data, so he should have a fairly smooth off-season. Ruben Fernandez is another rider who got fairly lucky after a hard crash in Indianapolis. He stated after that final moto fall that he was able to walk back to his bike and then ride off the circuit, but he is quite sore. Later in the Honda statement, he said that he hopes everything is going to be okay, which is a little bit ominous, but by all accounts, he seems to be in one piece. One injury that we didn't know about prior to the weekend is that RJ Hampshire displaced some ribs, so he was obviously riding wounded en route to second overall with Team USA. That was perhaps evident in his 7 crashes across the weekend. It is October now, and not only do we have rider and team splits to talk about, we also have new signings. Jason Anderson is of course joining the Twisted Tea Suzuki powered by Progressive Insurance wing of that team. That means that he won't necessarily be teammates with Roxon, who is of course under his own tent with a Red Bull helmet. Some are surprised that he hasn't kept a hold of a Monster Energy deal, but this is actually quite big news for the Twisted Tea guys. They've been a supporter of that program for some time, but have lacked a podium contender. To see Twisted Tea up on a box would be quite nice for a non-industry sponsor. And of course, Anderson's deal is for 2025 WSX, 2026 SMX and 2026 WSX. So it's effectively a one-year deal plus a month or two. Speaking of WSX, their first round was meant to be held in Malaysia next weekend, but that's now been cancelled, and the organisers of WSX were quite adamant in their official statements that the cancellation is down to an insufficient promoter, let's say, in Malaysia who couldn't meet the requirements to host an event such as this. Now, some could of course argue that surely this would have been apparent sooner than 2 weeks before round 1, but the reality is that's just not going to happen, and so round 1 has shifted to Argentina early in November. But there has been a replacement for Malaysia. That will be Sweden in late November, I believe, from memory, or is that early December? Around that time. Sweden, of course, means that Europe has been added back to the WSX calendar it was initially missing, so that's quite big news. And when 24MX held a Supercross in Stockholm a couple of years ago, I want to say, maybe longer, it was quite successful. So the Swedes and everyone in the Nordics do turn up to support the sport. So perhaps this will be a happy accident and the Swedish Grand Prix will give WSX something to really shout about. In more calendar news, MXGP announced their 2026 provisional calendar just before the Monster Energy FIM Motocross of Nations. There's not much to talk about there, but I'll run through a couple of the key points here quickly. The first round on the 22nd of February is a double TBA. The country is TBA as well as a circuit. In talking to people at the MXON, that is going to be somewhere between Abu Dhabi and Dubai. They just haven't really specified it yet. Now, this is a little bit ominous to me because we've tried this before with Oman and other places. So if that TBA were to drop off of the calendar, I wouldn't be too surprised. Argentina is traditionally the opener. That's fallen to round 2 now. And surprisingly, the circuit is to be announced. Cordoba, which debuted earlier this year, was a mass hit with everyone, riders, teams alike. For whatever reason, it's not on the initial calendar, which is quite a surprise. I would expect it to find its way onto there, though. I mean, how many world-class tracks does Argentina have? We've already hit 2 of them, and they've both been resounding successes. The Grand Prix of Great Britain is at a venue to be announced, and I can confirm that number 1 for that is Fox Hill. Although it hasn't been confirmed yet whether it's in or out, that is the preferred choice. It sounds like the organiser of the potential Fox Hill Grand Prix is a little bit nervous about the May date and the weather. Of course, Fox Hill in the rain isn't something that anyone wants to get involved with, but they are flirting with each other, and there is I would say, a fairly good chance that Fox Hill returns to the MXGP calendar. Speaking of returns, La Capelle Maraval is back for the first time since 2021. That'll be the Grand Prix of France, and Montevarchi in Italy, which is a real surprise. That hasn't hosted a round since the 2000s, and it did host the Italian Championship this year, and by all accounts, they couldn't even fit the Italian paddock in there, let alone MXGP. So everyone in the FIM Motocross World Championship has an eyebrow raised about how they are going to figure that out. There's another TBA in July, no rumours about what that will be, although I would suspect it would be Finland, as that's right on the date that Finland had this year. The only other point of note is that the final round of the SMX World Championship, wherever that's going to be, I hear no Vegas, not confirmed, but wherever that race is, it is just 1 week before the Monster Energy FIM Motocross of Nations at Ernée. So there's no breathing time for the American paddock. I spoke to one rider, an Australian, who said that is actually preferred, as the weekend off between Vegas and Ironman this year was a bit of a lull. It allowed your mind to wander a little bit, and they would rather just get on with it and get the season done, which surprised me a little bit because, who wants to deal with a calendar as hectic as that? The only final 2 pieces of news regarding 2026 are the fact that Carson Mumford has signed with AEO Powersports KTM, so that's confirmed. A nice move for Mumford, a return to his California roots, and on a very capable bike. So I would actually tout that as one of the bigger stories heading into 2026. And Club MX have given Devin Simonson another shot at Supercross. He will run a Supercross-only contract with the team for 2026, much like he did in 2025, hopefully without the injuries. Just as this video was about to go live, it was confirmed that Kaider Wolf will move to the MXGP class next year, so that's the end of his MX2 career. He has 1 silver medal, 1 gold medal, of course. He's a 2-time winner in the MX2 class at the Monster Energy FIM Motocross of Nations, and now a new adventure begins. This is quite poignant because he has been with the same Nissan Husqvarna factory racing team since his EMX 125 days. So this team has carried him from EMX 125 all of the way to MXGP and is arguably the best example of what the in-front moto racing structure with EMX classes and whatnot can be, or they want it to be, let's say. And this just adds another element to the 2026 FIM Motocross World Championship. Not only do you have Kai de Wolf making his debut, allegedly you have Jeffrey Hurlings and Tim Geiser on new teams, Lucas Coonan will be another year stronger, Roman Fevre will have the contentment of a championship as well as the stability of remaining with the same team, and it's shaping up to be one of the best seasons in some time. So this confirms the Nissan Husqvarna factory racing lineup as well. Kai de Wolf will be in the MXGP class, and then Liam Everts will be the team's only representation in MX2. And to be clear, any rumours about the team running an EMX structure are false. I confirmed that as well. That's it for another episode of The Hub and all of the news that has come from the world of motocross. If there's anything more you'd like to hear on here or anything else, just let us know. We will be back every single week throughout the winter, recapping news from each continent, because remember, this is truly the only place you can keep up with motocross news from around the world.